Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Today in Military Affairs. In this video we'll explore a striking statement from President Zelensky, who recently claimed that if Donald Trump were in the White House, the war in Ukraine could end much faster. Is this a genuine assessment, or merely political rhetoric? And could Trump's unconventional approach really bring the conflict to a swift conclusion? Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Stay tuned to our channel for the latest insights into global military and geopolitical developments. Now let's unpack the complexities of this claim. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, the war in Ukraine has been marked by widespread destruction, mass displacement, and an escalating humanitarian crisis. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee, while once thriving cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut now stand as haunting symbols of war's brutality. Central to this conflict is the role of Western support. The United States, leading a coalition of allies, has supplied Ukraine with over $55 billion in military aid as of June 2024. This includes advanced systems like HIMARS for long-range precision strikes and Javelin missiles, which have been instrumental in slowing Russia's advance. However, despite this assistance, Ukraine's forces have struggled to achieve significant territorial gains. Russia maintains fortified positions in the east and southeast, leveraging its larger pool of conscripts to sustain the fight. The human toll is staggering, with estimates of combined Ukrainian and Russian casualties nearing 2,000 per day, a grim reminder of the war's intensity, rivaling the bloodiest days of World War II. The war has also deeply impacted the global economy, disrupting supply chains and causing spikes in energy and food prices. Key export commodities such as grain and natural gas have become geopolitical tools, further entangling nations far removed from the battlefield. This economic turbulence underscores the war's far-reaching consequences, turning it into not just a regional conflict but a global crisis with profound implications for international stability. In recent interviews, President Zelensky suggested that Trump's leadership could potentially expedite the war's end. Although Zelensky did not elaborate on the specifics, his statement signals a recognition of Trump's ability to alter the war's dynamics. Zelensky and Trump share a complicated history. In 2019, Trump was accused of pressuring Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden, leading to Trump's first impeachment trial. Despite this, Trump maintains that he had a positive relationship with Zelensky, and recent interactions suggest a tentative attempt at rapprochement. Trump has repeatedly claimed during his campaign that he could end the war in a single day, though he has yet to detail his plan. This rhetoric has resonated with American voters weary of the conflict's financial and human costs, a sentiment amplified by his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, who has led efforts to block additional military aid to Ukraine. Zelensky's openness to the possibility of Trump's involvement may also reflect a strategic calculation. Acknowledging the potential for a shift in U.S. policy under a new administration, Zelensky might be positioning Ukraine to maintain strong ties with its key ally, regardless of political changes in Washington. This pragmatic approach underscores the importance of U.S. support in Ukraine's ongoing efforts to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Trump's assertion of ending the war quickly hinges on his self-proclaimed prowess as a negotiator. He has criticized what he calls the reckless spending of U.S. resources in Ukraine and hinted at a strategy focused on reducing direct military involvement while pursuing direct diplomatic engagement. Analysts speculate that Trump might leverage his rapport with Russian President Vladimir Putin to broker a ceasefire. However, this approach carries significant risks. Many fear that such negotiations could result in territorial concessions to Russia, which Zelensky and much of the international community would find unacceptable. Granting Russia control over seized Ukrainian territories could embolden Moscow and undermine the principles of international law, particularly regarding sovereignty and territorial integrity. Moreover, a settlement perceived as favorable to Russia could destabilize the broader region. Countries like Poland and the Baltic states, which have historically faced Russian aggression, might respond by bolstering their own military capabilities and calling for increased NATO presence. This could lead to an arms race in Eastern Europe, further straining relations between NATO and Russia, and potentially creating new flashpoints for conflict. Trump's potential return to the presidency has raised alarm among NATO allies. European leaders, including Germany's Olaf Scholz and France's Emmanuel Macron, worry that a softer U.S. stance could fracture the Western coalition's unified front against Russian aggression. Ceding Ukrainian territory as part of a peace deal could destabilize European security, potentially encouraging Moscow to pursue further invasions. Moreover, this shift could embolden other global actors, particularly China, which has strategic interests in the Eurasian region. Beijing might interpret a U.S. retreat as an opportunity to expand its influence, potentially increasing pressure on Taiwan and asserting greater control over the South China Sea. The fear is clear. If Trump rewards Putin with territorial gains, what's to stop him from making similar concessions to Xi Jinping to avoid conflict in the Pacific? Additionally, a perceived weakening of U.S. commitment to NATO could prompt European nations to reassess their own defense strategies. Countries like Poland and the Baltic states, which are on the front lines of potential Russian aggression, might seek to bolster their military capabilities independently, leading to a fragmented security approach within Europe. This could undermine the collective defense principle that has been the cornerstone of NATO since its inception, potentially inviting further challenges from adversarial powers. Domestically, support for Ukraine has waned among Republican voters. Trump's policies reflect this shift, prioritizing domestic issues over continued involvement in foreign conflicts. Should Trump follow through on his running mate's promises to reduce or cut off military aid, Ukraine's battlefield position would weaken significantly, potentially leading to further territorial losses. However, Trump might adopt a hybrid approach, combining direct negotiations with Putin and limited support for Ukraine. This delicate balancing act would require careful diplomacy to avoid perceptions of capitulation from both Kyiv and Moscow. This internal division within the U.S. also influences its standing on the global stage. Allies may question America's reliability as a partner, while adversaries could perceive an opportunity to advance their agendas amid perceived U.S. indecision. Navigating this complex landscape demands a nuanced strategy that addresses domestic concerns without compromising international commitments. For Putin, accepting any agreement requires maintaining the appearance of strength. He cannot afford to present a deal that leaves Russia with less than it held in 2022, as this would severely weaken his position domestically. A perceived loss could embolden political and even military opposition within Russia, potentially destabilizing the Kremlin. This raises the stakes for any negotiations, as both sides seek to secure favorable outcomes without undermining their political standing. Externally, Putin faces pressure to demonstrate that Russia remains a dominant power capable of influencing global affairs. Any concessions made during negotiations could be interpreted as a sign of weakness, not only by the West but also by key allies like China and Iran. This complicates Moscow's diplomatic calculus, as it must balance the need for a sustainable resolution with the desire to project power and maintain strategic alliances. Internally, this balancing act is further complicated by the growing discontent among nationalist factions, who demand a more aggressive stance in the conflict. Trump's return to the presidency could fundamentally reshape the U.S. approach to the Ukraine conflict. His promise of a quick resolution offers hope to some but sparks concern among others. Would his strategy lead to a lasting peace or merely a temporary ceasefire, allowing Russia to regroup and strike again? The answers to these questions could redefine not only the future of Ukraine but also the global balance of power. Furthermore, such a shift in U.S. foreign policy could accelerate the emergence of a multipolar world order. As the United States recalibrates its role, other major powers like China, Russia, and the European Union might take bolder steps to assert their influence. This realignment could lead to new alliances and rivalries, reshaping international norms and potentially heightening tensions in regions beyond Europe, such as the Indo-Pacific. The outcome of this conflict and the role the U.S. chooses to play will likely set a precedent for how global power dynamics evolve in the coming decades. The stakes in Ukraine remain as high as ever. With Trump's potential return, the world faces a pivotal moment in determining the trajectory of this conflict. Will his unconventional approach pave the way for peace, or will it set the stage for further instability? Stay tuned as we continue to monitor and analyze this evolving geopolitical landscape. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more in-depth coverage. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.